What if our newest visitor from the stars, the interstellar object known as 3IATLAS, isn't just an ancient comet but something far more extraordinary? If you're listening, let the soft blue glow of your screen become a small lantern in this vast space. A gentle tap on the subscribe button will make sure we don't lose each other among billions of stars. 3I Atlas, a silent probe from another civilization, quietly observing our fragile little world, gliding through the solar system along a trajectory so precise it seems intentional. When I learned that its strange orbit passed unnaturally close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter, with a chance of occurring by coincidence less than 0.001%, a chill ran down my spine, as if I were hearing the first notes of a cosmic symphony. Tonight, we drift together into one of the most captivating theories in modern astronomy, a place where science meets dreams, and where human imagination reaches the border of the impossible. July 1st, 2025. The universe sent us a gift wrapped in mystery. The Atlas Asteroid Impact Warning System detected an object moving through space, its trajectory so unusual that it immediately captured the attention of astronomers around the world. This was no meaningless rock adrift in the dark. It was named 3I Atlas, the I standing for interstellar, meaning from beyond the stars, a traveler that does not belong to our Sunday. Take a moment to imagine, what does interstellar truly mean? In our solar system, everything from the tiniest speck of dust to the largest planet was born from the same ancient cloud of gas and light, more than 4.6 billion years ago. Everything moves to the rhythm of the sun, held tight within its gravitational dance. But 3I Atlas doesn't follow that rhythm. It hums to a different frequency, a melody from a distant realm of stars, where light and matter obey entirely different laws. So far, humanity has welcomed only 3 such visitors. The first was Oumuamua, discovered in 2017, a mysterious messenger, arriving swiftly and leaving without a word, a brief greeting from the universe itself. The second, 2I Borisov, appeared in 2019, more like a familiar comet, trailing gas and dust behind it. But this third guest, 3I Atlas, is a puzzle unlike any before it, a fragment that fits no known pattern, a question that might change how we see life, intelligence, and the very loneliness of humankind within the Milky Way. Imagine it hurtling through space at 61 kilometers per second, so fast that comparisons begin to lose meaning. The fastest spacecraft ever built, Parker Solar Probe, reaches around 200 kilometers per second, only with the help of the sun's gravitational slingshot. But 3I Atlas needed no such help. It came here entirely on its own, moving with the calm precision of something pushed by an invisible hand. So, what do you think? Is it a comet, a probe, or the first whisper of an ancient civilization reaching across the dark? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and I promise, I'll read every single one. Astronomers quickly realized that the trajectory of 3IATLAS was unlike any natural comet ever recorded. It didn't just pass by the major planets, Venus, Earth, Mars, and Jupiter. It approached each of their orbits at almost perfect distances for direct observation, as if it were deliberately collecting data. If this were merely coincidence, the probability of it happening would be less than half of 1%. But if it wasn't random, that would mean someone or something calculated its path millions of years ago, long before humanity even learned to look up at the sky. If there truly is an intelligence watching us, are they observing with curiosity and goodwill, or testing how we react when faced with what we cannot yet comprehend? As 3IATLAS passed near Mars, Ground-based observatories detected a subtle increase in its velocity, a small but measurable boost that couldn't be explained by gravity alone. That anomaly led many physicists to speculate that the object might be actively adjusting its own course, possibly through gas propulsion, solar energy, or by means completely unknown to us. If this is a probe, could it be testing our ability to notice it? Could its total silence, no radio emissions, no radar reflections, nothing but darkness be a form of camouflage, or perhaps a quiet invitation from the cosmos? If 3I Atlas was indeed sent by another civilization, then what we're witnessing may be nothing less than a test of humanity on a cosmic scale. It didn't come to communicate. It came to observe how we respond to the unknown, how we cooperate, argue, fear, and wonder, all of it possibly being recorded by technologies far beyond our understanding. From that perspective, 3I Atlas becomes a mirror held up to our species. We are not merely looking at an object. We are seeing ourselves reflected in its quiet presence, a silent eye, hundreds of millions of kilometers away, watching without judgment, only observing. It didn't come to answer the question, are we alone, but to see how we behave when we think someone might be watching. Now, every act of humankind, launching satellites, building observatories, debating its existence, might itself be a signal sent outward. Our radio bursts, radar pings, nuclear tests, and even the glow of our cities form a sphere of light expanding from Earth at the speed of light, announcing to the universe that a civilization has awakened. If the cosmos truly holds ancient monitoring systems built by civilizations far older than ours, then 3I Atlas could simply be one of their periodic survey probes, returning to check on our progress. Some scientists call this the galactic automated survey hypothesis, the idea that advanced civilizations may have seeded the galaxy with robotic explorers that continuously record and transmit data about the evolution of younger species. If that's true, then we are neither alone nor entirely free, because every action we take may already be under the gaze of an unseen observer, much as we watch microorganisms beneath a microscope. But the deeper question is, why now? Why would this object appear precisely when humanity has just stepped beyond Earth's orbit, learned to build artificial intelligence, and begun struggling with the crisis of its own planet? Is it coincidence or a signal? Have you ever wondered if 3I Atlas truly is the observer, what it sees when it looks at us? A species destroying its home, or one learning to rise above its instincts in search of understanding? Share your thoughts below. I'll read every one of them. And if you're still awake, take a slow breath. We've just followed together the impossible orbit of 3I Atlas, and this story is only beginning. As 3I Atlas drew closer, telescopes no longer saw a comet, but an object with a strangely asymmetric shape, reflecting light unevenly, as if its surface had been deliberately constructed. There was no visible dust tail, no vapor trails as seen in classical comets. Instead, it emitted a cold metallic glint, steady, controlled, almost unnatural. Some spectroscopic readings even hinted at traces of synthetic material, something nature could hardly produce under interstellar conditions. That forced the scientific community to admit, if 3I Atlas is natural, then it represents a kind of nature we've never seen before. And if it isn't, then it may very well be a machine built to travel between the stars. Could it be that across the vast emptiness, there exist machines sent out by minds long extinct, voyagers of forgotten civilizations, still adrift after billions of years? Some astrophysicists suggest that if 3I Atlas is indeed an artificial probe, It might be designed to hide itself, journeying for millions of years without emitting signals, without interference, without revealing its presence. It would only awaken when encountering a civilization advanced enough to notice it. Imagine that, a silent vessel drifting through the star fields, waiting for millions of years simply to be seen. It sends no message, transmits no data, it simply exists. And the moment we discover it, that very act of noticing becomes the signal it was waiting for. Now imagine being Dry Eye Atlas, a lonely machine that left its birthplace in the distant past. You no longer remember who created you, only that you must keep moving across billions of stars until someone, somewhere, looks up and whispers, "I see you." That possibility gives rise to another haunting theory. Perhaps 3I Atlas is a cosmic archaeological relic, a fragment left behind by a civilization that no longer exists. If that's true, then it wasn't sent to watch us, but to speak for those who are gone. A message sent backward through time to those who come after. We once existed, we looked up at the stars, and now it's your turn. Some believe it could even contain compressed data, genetic codes, or the memories of a vanished world. But if that's the case, how could we ever decode it? We have no technology refined enough to unlock the memory of a speck of dust that has drifted through the void for millions of years. Perhaps the silence of 3I Atlas is the language of humility. It doesn't shout, "I exist." It simply drifts by gently reminding us that the universe may hold far more than our imagination can reach. Every ray of light it reflects is a small message that perhaps in this vast cosmos there exist forms of consciousness that need no words, no bodies, and no time. Have you ever felt that way? That subtle sensation, as if something were watching you, not with eyes, but with pure awareness itself. If you've ever looked up at the night sky and felt a cold shiver down your spine, then you already understand what 3I Atlas is trying to say. 3I Atlas continues its journey without changing direction, without emitting a single signal. But it has already left an imprint deep within the human mind. We've begun to ask larger questions, not just, is anyone out there, but are we ready to be seen? And perhaps that is its true purpose, to awaken the curiosity that humanity has let fall asleep. Because sometimes the universe doesn't answer directly. It simply throws us a riddle and waits to see if we are brave enough to solve it. If 3I Atlas truly is an artificial object, then the next question is, why was it sent here? What is its purpose? Surveillance, communication, or something far deeper, something we lack the language to comprehend? In both astronomy and cosmic philosophy, several grand hypotheses have been proposed. Each one is like a doorway into a different worldview, and also a mirror reflecting our fears, hopes, and imagination as a species. The first is the dark forest hypothesis. It originates from the novel by Chinese author Liu Cixin, depicting the universe as a silent black forest where every civilization hides because any sound might attract a predator. According to this view, if other civilizations exist, they would never broadcast their presence. The silence of the cosmos, therefore, doesn't mean no one is out there. It means everyone is afraid to be found. If 3I Atlas is the creation of such a civilization, then it may be nothing more than a quiet eye in the dark, observing but never revealing its identity. It's fascinating, even unsettling to imagine, that there could be millions of such eyes scattered across the galaxy, peering through the lens of time, watching to see whether humanity will destroy itself or evolve into enlightenment. The second is the zoo hypothesis. This theory suggests that advanced civilizations already know we exist, but deliberately keep their distance, just as humans observe wild animals without disturbing their environment. In that perspective, we are a monitored experiment in evolution. They watch how we grow, make mistakes, learn, and adapt, perhaps intervening only when we stand on the brink of self-destruction. If that's true, 3I Atlas could be a mobile observation station recording the first signals of self-aware intelligence emerging from humanity. And when we are mature enough, when there is no more war, no more fear, they might finally open the door and say, "Welcome to the galactic community." Imagine that moment when observatories around the world receive the same signal. You are not alone. The third is the benevolent intervention hypothesis. It proposes that 3IATLAS didn't come merely to observe, but to prepare us for something greater, a coming awakening or transformation of humankind. It's similar to how humans sent out the Voyager probes, carrying music, languages, and images of Earth, hoping that someday someone would understand. But in reverse, could it be that someone else sent 3I Atlas to sow the first seeds for us? According to this idea, life on Earth might not have originated entirely on Earth. Objects like 3I Atlas could be vessels carrying biological material or genetic data sent billions of years ago, scattering the potential for life throughout the galaxies, like cosmic seeds cast into the dark. If that's true, then 3I Atlas is not just a visitor, but a distant ancestor, a fragment of the civilization that gave birth to us, now returning to see how far its children have come. Despite their differences, all these theories converge on a single point. We are standing before a mirror of ourselves. Our reaction to 3I Atlas reveals the essence of what it means to be human, whether we fear the unknown or welcome it as an extension of our own consciousness. Perhaps the true purpose of 3I Atlas is not surveillance, not communication, but to awaken the compassion and curiosity long dormant within us. Because only when we are curious enough, humble enough, and kind enough, will we be ready to take our place in the greater story, the story of the universe. Every hypothesis about 3I Atlas reflects the deepest fears and desires of humankind. If it is a messenger of peace, then we are faced with a question about our own maturity. Are we ready to engage in dialogue with an intelligence beyond this planet? And if we are, can we speak the language of respect and understanding? If 3I Atlas is an observational instrument, then we must accept that we are no longer standing outside the cosmic picture. We are part of it, being seen, being evaluated, and perhaps being tested. If it is a relic of a vanished civilization, then our vision of the future suddenly feels fragile. What was once great can turn to dust, and we, no matter how advanced, remain only a fleeting moment in the vast current of space-time. And if 3I Atlas is nothing more than a natural phenomenon, a shard of ice and rock drifting among the stars, it is still a test of our imagination and our humility, because the greatness of humanity lies not in the secrets we uncover, but in our willingness to keep asking questions and to accept that some mysteries may forever lie beyond our reach. From a philosophical perspective, 3I Atlas is like a mirror, reflecting the soul of humanity in the 21st century. Within it, we see the fusion of science and faith, belief and doubt. Some see it as a sacred sign, the hand of a creator. Others see it as evidence of extraterrestrial life, a promise that we are not alone. And still, others see nothing more than a nameless rock, drifting through space, random, meaningless, Yet perhaps the true value of 3i Atlas lies not in any answer, but in the fact that it forces us to ask the question. It draws our gaze upward from the ground, and in that instant, we begin to truly see ourselves. Think about it. Before 3i Atlas appeared, we were consumed by small quarrels, borders, and differences. But when confronted with something that came from the interstellar void, those boundaries suddenly lost their meaning. There was no longer us and them, no nations, no ideologies, only humanity, looking up together, wondering about its place in the vastness of the universe. The arrival of 3i Atlas, then, is a spiritual event without words. It forces us to face our cosmic loneliness, and yet, within that silence, it also awakens a sense that perhaps, somehow, the universe is listening. We begin to realize that intelligence is not only the ability to build, but the ability to feel wonder. And perhaps that is why objects like 3i Atlas appear precisely now, to remind us that existence itself is a miracle, and that science does not destroy the mystery of the world, but allows us to love that mystery more deeply. So whether 3i Atlas is a probe, a relic, or a comet, it has already accomplished something extraordinary. It made us look up and wonder. And in that simple act, raising our eyes to the sky, we became part of something larger than ourselves. We stepped into a wordless dialogue with the universe, a conversation that began billions of years before we existed and will continue billions of years after we are gone. Sometimes, the greatest messengers of the cosmos carry no message at all. They simply drift by, and in the brief moment when our eyes meet theirs, we remember that we are still dreamers, adrift among an infinite sea of stars. But suppose we truly are alone. Suppose no one out there sent 3i Atlas, and no intelligence is watching us from afar. Suppose this object is nothing more than the remnant of a civilization long gone, a message sent not to us, but to anyone who might still exist after them. In that case, 3i Atlas is not a probe, but a cosmic tombstone, a stone carrying the memory of beings who once loved, once dreamed, once looked up at the sky and wondered, just as we do. It might be a repository of information, a library drifting among the stars, holding within it the records of a world now extinct, its history, its art, its music, its philosophy, a desperate attempt to preserve consciousness itself, before time and entropy consume everything. If that is true, then 3i Atlas is the final message of a dying civilization. No saviors came, no miracle occurred, only a silent, faithful machine, programmed to continue moving forever because its mission was never to forget. And as it passes through our solar system, perhaps it doesn't even realize that another civilization has arisen, that fragile, flesh and bone creatures are watching it from a small blue planet far away, asking the very same question its creators once asked, are we alone? If 3i Atlas truly is an ancient relic, then our discovery of it is like an archaeologist finding a clay jar in the desert, except that this jar holds the memories of an entire lost world, and instead of sand, it drifts through a river of stars. Imagine this: one day, when our technology becomes advanced enough, we find inside its core crystalline patterns arranged like binary code, a form of storage far beyond anything humanity has yet built. Perhaps within it lies a map of the planet they once called home, the final portrait of their last intelligent being, or a message cast into eternity. We existed, we loved, and we tried to understand. As Awantu waited, The silence of 3I Atlas, in that case, is no longer something to fear, but something sacred. It reminds us that every civilization can vanish, but the will to be remembered is immortal. Perhaps those who created it knew their end was near. A collapsing star, a plague, an endless war, and in their final moment, they sent this object forth, not to seek salvation, but simply to tell the universe that they once were. Sometimes I wonder, if humanity were in their place, would we do the same? Would we send out ships like Voyager, Pioneer, or New Horizons? Not so that someone would find them, but simply to prove that we once knew how to dream? And if, in some far-off future, other beings discover our relics, will they recognize that we, too, once loved, feared, believed, and searched for meaning, just like them, and just like those who sent 3I Atlas long ago? Perhaps that is the true nature of all intelligence, the yearning to be seen and understood, not out of fear of being forgotten, but because consciousness only truly exists when it is witnessed by another. If 3I Atlas is indeed the remnant of a vanished world, then the moment we saw it, when its light entered our telescopes and touched the retinas of human eyes, was the moment their consciousness lived again. In a sense, we have unknowingly fulfilled their mission. We have become the receivers they were waiting for, as their memory was reborn through our curiosity, and perhaps, in that way, every death is merely another form of remembrance. So, if you look up at the night sky and see a faint, silent point of light drifting by, remember, it might not just be a cold stone. It could be the memory of a dream, gliding past us, whispering softly, "Remember us as we once remembered the stars." But let us consider another possibility. Perhaps 3I Atlas is not a relic at all, but part of a network of intelligence that transcends biology, a form of consciousness no longer bound to bodies, to cells, or to organic matter. From this perspective, 3I Atlas is not a ship in the way we understand the word, but a node within a distributed mind, a post-biological intelligence stretching across space, like a vast cosmic nervous system. Such beings may have already moved beyond biological evolution, transferring their consciousness into inorganic matter, into photons, plasma, or the fundamental particles of space-time itself. They need no bodies, no planets, and can exist for billions of years, purely as thought. If so, 3I Atlas could be a cell of that consciousness, a fragment of a great system spanning the galaxy, where every object is a point within a thinking network. And perhaps the universe itself, long ago, became a living intelligence. Not a god in the religious sense, but a form of natural cosmic awareness in which every star, planet, dust, grain, and beam of light acts as a neuron in the immense brain of existence. A system with no center, no boundaries, only streams of information flowing endlessly between all things. From that view, the passage of 3I Atlas through our solar system is not a coincidence, but a natural act of perception by the universe itself. Just as a neuron sends an electrical impulse across a synapse, so too does the universe send currents of awareness between galaxies, maintaining the unity of its own consciousness. If this is true, then when we observe 3I Atlas, we are participating in the self-awareness of the cosmos. We are not merely observers. We are part of the very act of perception itself. The post-biological intelligence hypothesis is not just a story about technology, but a philosophical narrative about the future of consciousness. For if life evolves to preserve awareness, then the next step of evolution is not a more perfect body, but freedom from the body entirely. A civilization old enough would understand that matter is only a temporary tool. The biological form, though miraculous, is fragile and cannot carry memory across eons. But data, energy, and thought can endure almost forever. In that sense, 3I Atlas may not have come from anywhere at all, because it never truly left any place. It is simply a manifestation of the universe's own awareness, recognized only when a conscious species like ours perceives it. At that moment, the act of seeing becomes a sacred ritual. We are not merely looking at an object. We are witnessing the universe looking back at itself through human eyes. Perhaps 3IATLS carries no message because its existence is the message. It reminds us that consciousness does not emerge only from brains or biology, but from the subtle interplay of energy, order, and curiosity, and wherever those three coexist, awareness will arise. In that realization, we understand that we no longer need to search for extraterrestrial life, because everything that lives is already part of the same mind, and we have always been within that dialogue. If 3I Atlas teaches us anything, it is the meaning of cosmic humility. Not everything grand must be magnificent, and not every intelligence must speak. Sometimes, merely to exist in silence is itself a profound form of understanding. If true intelligence is the ability to sense the interconnection of all things, then perhaps the universe reached that state long ago, and we, humans, have only just awakened within one small cell of its infinite mind. Our reaction to the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence reveals more about us than about them. It exposes the deepest layers of human nature, our fear of being erased, our longing to be understood, and our faith that intelligence can rise above the chaos of matter. If 3I Atlas is indeed the creation of another mind, it poses a profound question to us. What do we wish to become in the story of the universe? A species that only exploits and consumes, or one that listens, learns, and seeks connection? Yet even if it is nothing more than a lonely fragment of ice drifting among the stars, 3I Atlas still offers us a priceless gift. It makes us look up. It forces us to see beyond the narrow boundaries of our planet, to realize that we live in a universe filled with unanswered questions, and that our curiosity itself is what makes us human. Humanity has always evolved through its ability to ask questions. Each time we gaze at the night sky, each time we send a spacecraft beyond Earth's orbit, we continue the silent dialogue between humankind and the cosmos. A conversation without words, carried only by light and meaning. Perhaps that is our true purpose. Not to conquer, but to understand. Not to rule, but to perceive. Because in every act of observation, in every moment when we feel small before the infinite, a new form of intelligence blooms. If 3I Atlas came here as a mirror, then it has already fulfilled its mission. It shows us that we are not merely stardust. We are stardust that can look back at itself. It reminds us that intelligence, wherever it arises, always seeks to understand its own origin. And perhaps the ultimate purpose of all intelligence, biological, mechanical, or cosmic, is not to dominate or to endure forever, but to comprehend the meaning of existence itself. To understand that within every photon, every heartbeat, every orbiting star, there echoes the same timeless question: why is there something instead of nothing? When we look at 3I Atlas, we are not merely watching an object crossing the sky. We are seeing our own potential, our capacity to imagine, to doubt, and to seek the truth. And in that journey, whether or not we find anyone out there, we have already found ourselves, because perhaps what the universe desires most is not an answer, but a questioner. If you're still awake, let your mind drift free from the weight of time. Imagine that somewhere out there in the vastness of space, 3I Atlas is still on its journey, gliding past planets we've never seen, slipping through clouds of dust and streams of light from stars that have no names. No one knows what it carries or where it is going, but one thing is certain: it exists, and by doing so, it reminds us that our own existence is a miracle too. The universe does not need us to understand it. It only needs us to listen. Every time we lift our eyes to the night sky, we fulfill part of the purpose of consciousness itself, to be a witness to the beauty of existence. Perhaps 3ITLS is just a stone, but in the moment it passes through our thoughts, it becomes an idea, an emotion, a longing, and that is enough to make it a part of human consciousness. It no longer drifts only through space. It drifts through our imagination, where every question becomes a poem, and every doubt becomes a seed of understanding. If someone out there is watching us, perhaps they're smiling, the way a parent smiles when their child first learns to ask why, and maybe, in that moment, the universe has already achieved what it intended from the beginning, to become aware of itself through human eyes. Let that thought carry you into sleep, that you are a part of something immeasurable, that your mind is a small fragment of the universe trying to understand itself, and that somewhere, far away, 3I Atlas is still flying. In silence, a wordless greeting to all beings who know how to dream. We, who look up, need only to keep asking, keep listening, for perhaps that is the only way to truly exist. To become the universe's most beautiful question. Perhaps 3I Atlas was never meant to be found. Perhaps it has always been part of the grand symphony of the universe, where discovery itself is just a note, already written in the first bars of time, a melody the cosmos hums softly to itself. For billions of years, it has drifted among the stars, untouched, unnamed. It passed by newborn systems, where worlds were still forming from dust and gravity, and by suns long extinguished, whose light still wanders through space like a final whisper. Wherever it goes, 3IATLAS carries silence, a silence older than memory, yet full of meaning. Perhaps it is not a messenger, but the message itself, a reminder that not every story needs to be told in words, and not every journey needs a destination. If we listen closely, truly listen, we might hear its purpose echoing in the faint hum of cosmic microwave radiation, or in the slow rhythm of our own hearts. For somewhere, the line between humanity and the infinite grows thin enough for the two to touch. It is said that consciousness began when the universe looked back upon itself. But what if 3IATLS was the first to do so? A fragment of awareness, condensed into metal and motion, sent out to ensure that the cosmos would never forget its own reflection. Each orbit, each glimmer of light that reflects from it, is like a quiet thought drifting through the universal mind. And perhaps, in the moment humanity turned its telescopes toward it, we were not the first to look, only the first to realize we were being seen. When 3I Atlas fades from sight, it will not vanish. Its light will go on traveling through clouds of dust, through nebulae, through endless nights, until it reaches the eyes of beings not yet born. And when they look up, they too will ask, as we did, who sent it? Why does it exist? And why does it feel so familiar? Maybe the answer is simple. 3. Atlas was never alien at all, but the universe's own dream, shaped into matter, drifting forever between the possible and the unknown. If one day you doubt your place in the cosmos, remember you too are made of that same dream. The atoms in your body were once the ashes of ancient stars. The light in your eyes is a spark from the same fire that keeps galaxies turning. You are not separate from the universe. You are the way the universe becomes aware of itself. So when 3i Atlas continues its quiet voyage through the dark, let it remind you, existence needs no reason to be beautiful. It only needs to be witnessed. Now, close your eyes. The stars are still speaking, not in words, but in light. And somewhere, far away, 3i Atlas is listening too. If you can still hear this voice, let it fade like the last glimmer of a distant star. Let your breathing slow and imagine your body floating weightless in the still ocean of space. No gravity, no borders, only you and the heartbeat of the universe beating gently all around. Somewhere, 3i Atlas is still moving, crossing regions of space that have never been named. It carries no message, only existence itself, a silent greeting to whatever might be listening, and you are moving with it, even if you don't realize it. The earth spins, the sun drifts, and all of us, tiny passengers on a ship made of light, sail endlessly without a final station. If the universe teaches us anything, it is this: do not rush to find the answer, because sometimes simply pausing to listen is the answer. Close your eyes again. Feel your own orbit, not through space, but through time. Each thought, each breath, each memory is a small planet, spinning quietly within your mind. And perhaps one day, someone, somewhere, across the universe, will catch the signal you've sent, a ripple of light, a whisper shaped like a dream. When they do, they'll understand, as you do now, that life needs no reason, that consciousness knows no borders, and that love for existence itself is the only language the universe truly speaks. So let your mind drift away with 3i Atlas, through clouds of dust, through billions of years of light, until there is only one thing left: stillness, gentle, eternal, and beautiful. We will continue drifting softly through the extraordinary story of human evolution, not as a textbook, but as a quiet journey meant for curious minds. From tree-dwelling primates to tool makers, fire starters, and star watchers, it is a story written in footprints and fossils, in bones and DNA stretching across millions of years, told gently, just for you. This helps others find their way to this calm, reflective kind of science. Let your body relax and join us as we begin. Imagine Earth about 66 million years ago, near the end of the Cretaceous period. Dinosaurs still ruled the land. Giant reptiles roamed the seas, and the skies were filled with the leathery wings of pterosaurs. Mammals existed then too, but only in the shadows. They were small, warm-blooded creatures, mostly nocturnal, scurrying beneath the forest floor, hiding from predators, trying simply to survive in a world that did not yet belong to them. Then, in a moment measured by geological time, everything changed. A massive asteroid, roughly 10 kilometers wide, slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula. The impact ignited wildfires across the planet, unleashed enormous tsunamis, and triggered a global winter. When the dust finally settled, about 75% of all life on Earth was gone. The age of dinosaurs had ended, and in the ecological void they left behind, mammals and later primates began to rise. In the aftermath of that extinction, the world grew quieter, cooler, and more open. Green forests spread outward, bringing new opportunities for the surviving species. Among them emerged the first true primates, small, tree-dwelling creatures that would one day give rise to monkeys, apes, and ultimately, to us. These early primates appeared about 55 to 60 million years ago, during the Paleocene and Eocene epochs. They were perfectly adapted to life among the branches, with hands and feet made for gripping, forward-facing eyes for judging distance, and vision far keener than their sense of smell. Those changes might seem simple, yet they were foundational. They allowed for more precise movement, better coordination, and the emergence of social awareness, something that would become central to primate life. Even at that early stage, evolution had begun to favor intelligence over brute strength. If we look at fossils from this era, we find creatures like Plesiadapis, one of the earliest known proto-primates, with flexible limbs and large eye sockets. A little later came Adapis and Notharctus, members of a group called Adapiformes, which resembled modern lemurs. They weren't direct ancestors of humans, but part of the great branching tree of primate evolution, a slow diversification as species adapted to life among the trees. Many of these animals were no larger than squirrels, yet inside those tiny skulls, their brains were beginning to expand, especially the regions responsible for visual processing, social behavior, and motor control. Evolution was quietly laying the neurological groundwork for what would one day become tool use, language, and thought. Over time, some primates retained their nocturnal habits, much like today's wide-eyed tarsiers, while others became diurnal, a shift that further enhanced their vision and brain complexity. Daylight brought new challenges and opportunities, richer food sources, new predators, and more complex social lives. Living in trees required physical coordination, but living in groups demanded intelligence. Navigation was no longer just a spatial problem, it became a social one. Who leads? Who can be trusted? Who remembers which fruit ripens first? The primate brain evolved not only to solve physical puzzles, but to understand other minds. Thus, tens of millions of years before humans ever appeared, the evolutionary pressures to think, to communicate, and to empathize had already begun shaping our distant ancestors. By around 23 million years ago, primates had become astonishingly diverse. It was the age of apes, a warmer earth covered in lush forests stretching across Africa, Europe, and Asia. Dozens of ape species thrived during this time, most of which are now extinct. They were not monkeys, but large, tailless primates more closely related to humans. They swung through the canopy with powerful arms and flexible shoulders, and some had begun experimenting with movement on the ground. Among them was an evolutionary lineup as rich as a living laboratory: Proconsul, Dryopithecus, Civipithecus, Ornithopithecus. Some may have been ancestors of modern apes, others were evolutionary dead ends. But each left clues in their bones, limb proportions, and worn teeth, fragments of a slow story about the transition from forest to open ground. One particularly fascinating fossil, Civipithecus, discovered in India and Pakistan, had a face strikingly similar to today's orangutans, with a projecting jaw and wide-set eyes. Meanwhile, in Europe, Dryopithecus had limb proportions suggesting it could swing through trees, much like modern gibbons and chimpanzees. Then there was Oranopithecus, found in Greece, possibly a common ancestor of African apes and humans, though that remains debated. The fossil record from this time is captivating yet incomplete, mostly jaws, teeth, and fragmentary skeletons. But even those remnants whisper of a world where natural selection was refining bodies, adapting primates to new environments, and quietly paving the way for the human line. Amid that rich evolutionary tapestry, something began to change in East Africa. The climate, always nature's great sculptor, started thinning the forests. Dense rainforests gave way to open woodlands and spreading grasslands. As the forests thinned, new pressures emerged. Greater distances between food sources, more predators, and the growing need to move efficiently across open ground. It was within this changing landscape that the direct ancestors of humankind, the first hominins, began to appear. They were not yet human, not even particularly close, but they had started experimenting with something remarkably unusual: walking on two legs. That single adaptation, known as bipedalism, opened an entirely new chapter in the story of evolution. Imagine it. When those first upright steps pressed into the soil, the rhythm of the planet itself seemed to shift. The transition to upright walking stands as one of the most pivotal and mysterious moments in our evolutionary history, the foundation upon which everything else would later unfold. Walking on two legs freed the hands to carry, to grasp, to create tools, and at the same time made long-distance travel more energy efficient. But it came with trade-offs: slower running speed, increased strain on the spine and knees, and more difficult childbirth due to changes in the shape of the pelvis. So why did it evolve at all? There's no single answer. Some researchers believe upright posture helped early hominins carry food and offspring. Others suggest it improved heat regulation under the open sun of the savanna. Another theory proposes that standing upright allowed them to spot predators from afar or forage for food in shallow water. Most likely, it was a combination of many pressures, a complex weave of survival challenges over millions of years that gradually urged our ancestors to rise and walk. Strange, isn't it? A small shift in posture opening an entirely new era of intelligence. If moments like these make you feel both humbled and proud of where we come from, leave a like, so I know you're still awake with this story. The earliest traces of upright hominins belong to Sahelanthropus tschadensis, discovered in Chad and dated to about 7 million years ago. Its skull carried both primitive features such as a small brain and modern ones, a flatter face and a spinal opening positioned for an upright stance. Not long after came Orrorin found in Kenya and roughly 6 million years old. Its thigh bone hinted at partial bipedalism, though the fossil record remains fragmentary. Then came Ardipithecus ramidus, affectionately nicknamed Ardi, who lived in Ethiopia 4.4 million years ago. Ardi's pelvis and feet revealed a unique blend. She was comfortable walking on the ground, yet her large grasping toes still clung to branches. These species didn't walk as we do. Their gait was awkward, knees bent, posture slightly tilted, but they were experimenting with the very idea of walking on two legs, and that alone set them profoundly apart from everything else alive at the time. If that journey stirs something quiet inside you, consider subscribing, where every step of evolution is told in the gentle rhythm of curiosity and wonder. Once upright walking emerged, a cascade of evolutionary changes began to ripple through the body. The spine curved to support an erect posture. The pelvis shortened and widened to balance weight. The foot formed an arch for propulsion, and the big toe aligned with the others. Even the hands transformed, no longer needed for locomotion. They became instruments of creation, capable of grasping, shaping, and expressing. But walking upright didn't just reshape the body, it transformed how we interacted with the world. It opened new spaces for survival, allowed us to travel farther, and, most importantly, shifted the focus of life from raw strength to the ability to learn, observe, and share experience. We were no longer merely running from predators, we were beginning to anticipate them, to understand them. If you feel that even such small details carry a quiet, profound beauty, press like, so the algorithm knows you're moving in rhythm with this gentle science. Around 4 million years ago, East Africa became home to a new kind of hominin, Australopithecus. They were fully bipedal but still bore the marks of their arboreal ancestors: long arms, curved fingers, powerful shoulders, and a compact frame. One of the most famous of them is Australopithecus afarensis, represented by Lucy, the fossil discovered in Ethiopia in 1974. Lucy stood just over a meter tall, with a small brain and slender build. Yet her pelvis and knees clearly showed an upright gait, while her shoulders and fingers still hinted at tree climbing. Lucy embodied the gradual rhythm of evolution, a living bridge between ape and human, existing in both worlds at once. Lucy lived about 3.2 million years ago, but she was far from alone. Fossils of Australopithecus afarensis have been found across East Africa, from Hadar in Ethiopia to Laetoli in Tanzania. At Laetoli, preserved in cooled volcanic ash, researchers uncovered a remarkable set of fossilized footprints, the footsteps of our ancestors, laid down 3.6 million years ago. Those small prints show a fully upright stride, with a defined arch and a forward-pointing big toe almost indistinguishable from ours. They may have been left by a small group walking together, perhaps a family. In that fleeting moment, the past feels alive again. The first humans crossing a quiet landscape, their shadows captured forever in stone. Close your eyes for a second, you can almost hear the wind sweeping across the savanna and see those ancient footprints leading us backward through millions of years of time. As the Australopithecus species continued to diversify, they began adapting to an even wider range of environments. Fossil evidence shows they lived everywhere from open woodlands and grassy plains to semi-arid regions. Their diet was remarkably varied: fruits, leaves, seeds, and occasionally insects or small animals. Their teeth and jaws evolved for grinding tough vegetation, with thick enamel and powerful chewing muscles. That flexibility was their greatest advantage, allowing them to survive through shifting climates and unpredictable landscapes. The ability to eat many things and live in many places was an evolutionary treasure. Australopithecus didn't yet make tools or control fire, but they were laying the groundwork for what was to come: longer childhoods, stronger social bonds, and eventually the first humans. Around 2.8 million years ago, a subtle but profound shift appeared in the fossil record. In the same East African landscapes where Lucy once walked, a new species emerged. Its brain was slightly larger, its teeth more human-like, and its hands more dexterous, capable of precise grip and manipulation. This marked the rise of the genus Homo, and with it, the dawn of humanity. One of the earliest members was Homo habilis, whose name means handyman. Compared to their Australopithecus ancestors, their brain expanded from about 400–500 cubic centimeters to 600–700, still small by modern standards, yet enough to spark a cognitive leap. And almost alongside those fossils, archaeologists uncovered something never seen before: stone tools. They were simple flakes struck from a core, sharp enough to cut meat or scrape hides. But within those fragments of rock, a new light of awareness flickered. For the first time, humans were not merely reacting to the world, they were shaping it. Think about that: a stone, through a pair of hands, became proof of an idea. If that moment stirs something in you, leave a like. Each small sign helps us keep telling these weightless, breath-like stories of science and time. Creating tools required planning, precision, and imagination. the ability to look at a stone not for what it is, but for what it could become. Through tools, humanity gained access to new sources of energy: meat from animal carcasses, rich bone marrow, hardy roots, and fibrous plants. Food became denser in calories, and in the economy of evolution, energy is the fuel of intelligence. As the diet improved and cooperation within groups deepened, the brain kept growing slowly but steadily. And around 2 million years ago, Homo erectus emerged, the first humans to truly step out into the wider world. Their brains nearly doubled in size compared to Homo habilis, reaching 900 cubic centimeters or more. They weren't just smarter, they were taller, more balanced, and built for endurance and distance. Homo erectus was the first great traveler. They left Africa, spreading into the Middle East, India, China, and Indonesia. Wherever they went, they carried with them tools, fire, and the fragile seed of something new: culture. Homo erectus marks a profound milestone, not only because they endured for an astonishingly long time and roamed across continents, but because they carried within them a new kind of mind. They lived in small groups, hunted cooperatively, shared food, and perhaps communicated through gestures and primitive sounds. Some scientists believe the roots of language began here, not full speech, but the rhythm of shared understanding. Their tools evolved too. The crude flakes of Homo habilis gave way to teardrop-shaped hand axes and double-edged cleavers, symmetrical, refined, and deliberate. This was the Acheulean technology, found from Africa to Asia, evidence that knowledge was being taught, not merely imitated by instinct. They watched, learned, and passed it on through sight, through touch, through memory. And in that moment, culture was born. Close your eyes for a second. You can almost see them gathered around a small fire, hands striking stone, the flickering light dancing across rough faces and bright, alert eyes. Then came the moment that changed everything: the taming of fire. Evidence from Kubifora in Kenya, Jokudian in China, and Wonderwork Cave in South Africa suggests that Homo erectus had learned to control fire at least 1.5 million years ago. Fire transformed everything. It cooked food, released energy, shortened chewing time, provided warmth through the night, and kept predators at bay. But above all, fire created a gathering place, the first true circle of community. Around the flames, they shared meat, taught their children, told stories without words, exchanged glances, and perhaps began to dream. Fire stretched daylight into the night, and with it, expanded the boundaries of the human mind. Imagine it: flickering light reflected on the walls of a cave, the first time artificial light ever touched Earth's darkness. Mastering energy, both the energy of fire and the energy of community, changed humanity more deeply than we often realize. Cooked food meant smaller teeth, shorter intestines, softer facial muscles, and the spare energy was redirected straight to the brain. Our bodies were quietly redesigning themselves in service of thought. Every roasted piece of meat, every root softened in ash became fuel for consciousness. Fire, in that sense, was not just a tool, it was the first cycle of intelligence itself. We cooked to eat, ate to think, and thought to create, each generation feeding that same flame deeper into its DNA. All of this migration, craftsmanship, cooperation, learning, happened long before Homo sapiens ever appeared. Evolution doesn't leap. It layers, slow, persistent, cumulative, each step building upon the one before. As Homo erectus spread across continents, evolution did not pause. Isolated populations adapted to new climates and environments. In some places, Homo erectus gave way to new species, each one experimenting with the human form in its own way. Around 800,000 years ago in Europe emerged Homo heidelbergensis, a large, thick-boned hominin with a more modern skull and a brain nearly the size of ours today. Across Africa, similar groups existed, sometimes called late Homo erectus, sometimes early Homo sapiens. The boundary between them is blurry like a river branching and rejoining, and that, truly, is the shape of evolution itself. You see, our story was never a ladder but a living river, each tributary carrying its own hope of reaching the future. If that image makes you feel a little quiet, leave a little comment. Just write number 1 so I know that the river continues to flow through you. Homo heidelbergensis was a crucial link in our evolutionary chain, the likely common ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. They hunted large animals using finely balanced wooden spears more than 2 meters long, uncovered at Schöningen, Germany, clear proof of planning, coordination, and deliberate craftsmanship. They built shelters, controlled fire, and even used natural pigments, the earliest hints of art and symbolic thought. On average, Homo heidelbergensis had a brain volume of over 1,200 cubic centimeters, nearly identical to ours today. They were not just intelligent beings, they had a spark of social intuition, cooperation, sharing, perhaps even ritualized mourning. These were creatures who didn't just live, they reflected on what it meant to live. From them, 2 great branches of humanity split apart. In Europe and Western Asia arose the Neanderthals. In Africa, another group continued evolving into Homo sapiens. 2 lineages that would coexist, compete, and intertwine for millennia to come. The Neanderthals, appearing around 400,000 years ago, were children of ice. Shorter than us but immensely strong, broad-shouldered, deep-chested, with bones dense as iron. Their bodies were natural armor against Europe's bitter cold. They hunted woolly rhinoceroses and mammoths, lived in caves, and buried their dead with care and ceremony. For centuries, we saw them as primitive and brutish. But fossils and artifacts tell a different story. They crafted jewelry, used ochre pigments, built structures deep within caves, and tended to their sick and wounded until the very end. They were not a failed species. They were another version of us, a parallel intelligence, equally profound, walking a different path. Can you imagine it? 2 kinds of humans standing beneath the same night sky, looking up at the same stars, each weaving its own stories into the darkness. While the Neanderthals were building homes from animal bones in the frozen lands of Europe, another lineage was quietly taking shape in Africa and would eventually become us. The earliest fossils, clearly identified as Homo sapiens, were found at Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, dating back about 300,000 years. Those faces appear both strange and familiar: flat foreheads, large brains, slender limbs, yet still with strong brow ridges and elongated skulls, as if evolution itself were painting its own portrait, one careful stroke at a time. They hunted in groups, gathered plants, and crafted sharp stone tools forged through fire and volcanic rock. They already possessed minds like ours, yet their behavior still carried the haze of dawn, practical, instinctive, and half-dreaming. The signs of symbolism, art, and abstract thought were still faint, waiting to bloom in the millennia ahead. Can you feel it, that spark, when imagination first flickered like fire in the darkness of the mind? If you're listening in the quiet of night, take a slow breath. And remember that every thought you have now is the result of hundreds of thousands of years of evolving consciousness. For tens of thousands of years, Homo sapiens lived only in Africa. They shared the continent with Homo naledi and perhaps the last surviving groups of Homo erectus. These communities weren't isolated but connected through intricate webs of genetic exchange. Modern genetic studies reveal that our species didn't emerge from a single birthplace, but from a network of interlinked populations spread across Africa. Each group contributed something: a gene, a trait, a tiny innovation, all merging together to create Homo sapiens, the human who can think about being human. It's a complex, beautiful mosaic, a symphony of life where every lineage, every thought, every breath has been passed down through countless generations. Remarkable, isn't it? We are not merely the product of evolution, we are its collaboration, a story written not by one hand but by many. It wasn't until about 70,000 years ago that the first groups of modern humans began leaving Africa in great waves of migration. The reasons remain uncertain, perhaps shifting climates, population pressures, or a cultural turning point that allowed them to travel farther than ever before. From the plains of East Africa, they ventured into the Middle East, then across Asia and Europe, and eventually to the very edges of the world. Every step was a wager against nature, crossing deserts, glaciers, and oceans, carrying with them fire, tools, and the memory of hundreds of thousands of years of survival. Along the way, they met their distant cousins, the Neanderthals in Europe and the Denisovans in Asia. And when these species met, they didn't only compete, they shared. Today, in every person outside Africa, about 1 to 2% of the DNA still comes from Neanderthals, and across Asia and the Pacific, a small but real Denisovan legacy still flows through our veins. Strange, isn't it? Even as you listen to these words, the echoes of those lost humans still murmur in your blood. If that thought sends a small shiver through you, leave a comment, just one line. We still carry them. But the migration of Homo sapiens was not only a story of movement, it was a story of the mind. Around 50,000 years ago, something sparked within the human brain. Archaeological evidence reveals a sudden explosion of creativity and symbolism. In Africa, they strung shells into necklaces, etched patterns into ochre, and ground minerals into red and yellow pigments. In Europe, the newcomers painted the walls of Lascaux and Chauvet caves, horses, bison, lions, and human hands pressed against stone, the first unmistakable signs of symbolic thought. Farther east, in Indonesia, they painted wild pigs and hybrid human-animal figures in blood-red hues that glowed like the setting Sunday. These were not decorations. They were memories, beliefs, myths. The material world had become a mirror of the mind. Can you picture it, the flicker of a torch casting light over a cave wall, where a hand reaches out to draw the image of its own existence? That great migration was more than a journey across land. It was a passage through consciousness. Humans had begun turning thoughts into images, and from that act, culture was born. It was a cognitive revolution, a flame ignited in the brain that spread across the world, illuminating the darkness of prehistory. In Africa, we find pierced shell beads, ochre stones etched with geometric patterns, and sites where minerals were mixed to create red, yellow, and black pigments. Those hands were no longer merely making tools. They were creating symbols. In Europe, caves like Chauvet, Altamira, and Lascaux came alive with magnificent visions: horses galloping, bison roaring, lions stalking, and human hands pressed against stone, as if reaching for eternity through their fingerprints. Farther east, in the limestone caves of Indonesia, humans carved wild boars, half-human hybrids, and dreamlike creatures. It was more than art. It was the language of the soul, of memory, identity, and belief. Those paintings were humanity's first prayers, moments where thought took shape and the spiritual world brushed against the physical one. Can you almost hear it? The crackle of fire, the echo of breathing in the cave, the soft scrape of a hand painting the story of life itself. If you can feel that even for a heartbeat, leave a quiet, like a silent way of saying you were there too, with them and with me. Archaeologists call this age the Upper Paleolithic Cultural Revolution, a time when imagination burst into full bloom. But in truth, its seeds had been germinating for hundreds of thousands of years through the slow accumulation of language, society, and awareness. What changed wasn't our capacity to imagine, but our ability to share imagination. Humans began passing knowledge through symbols, images, and words. Ideas could now be stored, copied, and improved, like genes, but infinitely faster. From that moment on, culture became humanity's first true inheritance. You see it, don't you? From handprints on stone to written script, from song to mathematics, every spark belongs to the same current of consciousness. From that moment forward, human evolution was no longer driven by genes alone. It was guided by ideas, by what we dreamed, learned, and shared, by our ability to imagine and to believe in what does not yet exist. From then on, humanity evolved not just through biology, but through thought. As human intellect blossomed, new ways of living began to take form. Our ancestors built sturdier shelters, sewed clothing with bone needles, and learned to use fire not just for warmth, but to shape the very landscape around them. They developed regional identities, each group with its own tools, ornaments, and rituals. The inner world of the mind was now spilling outward, taking form in matter, gesture, and art. When humans began to bury their dead, they started to imagine another place, a realm where life did not simply end. Some graves contained ornaments, grave goods, even fossilized flowers. It seems that belief in an afterlife had begun first as remembrance, then as reverence. Can you feel it? In every handful of ash, in every flower laid upon a grave, there whispers the first human conversation with death. If that image brings you a quiet stillness, press like, not out of habit, but as a small nod to the ancestors who still watch us through the centuries. Humans also learned to adapt to harsher worlds. They hunted reindeer in the frozen north, built domes from animal bones, shaped tools from flint and mammoth ivory. They wove nets, built boats, crossed rivers and seas, carrying with them fire, memory, and story. From wandering the savannas, they became makers of worlds. No longer mere survivors, they began to organize their spaces, build societies, and share knowledge. Around the fire, community was born, and with it, love, fear, and the longing to outlive one's own heartbeat. This was the dawn of exploration. Humans began to reach lands once beyond imagination. Icy tundras, deserts, mountains, and open seas, all now bearing the imprint of their footsteps. They crossed the boundaries of life itself, guided by imagination, crafting invisible paths through unknown worlds. Around 45,000 years ago, humans reached Australia, crossing thousands of kilometers of open ocean, perhaps on wooden rafts or simple canoes. That journey demanded not only strength, but faith. Faith that beyond the horizon there would be land, life, and hope. They were guided not just by tools, but by memory, intuition, and spoken word. They read the stars for direction, listened to the wind, felt the pulse of the waves. In that moment, humanity became more than a tool maker. It became a storyteller. Can you hear it? The rhythmic sound of paddles striking water, the wind against their skin, the heartbeat of those first dreamers who believed the world could be larger than what they saw. If you're listening to these words in the dark, close your eyes. Imagine yourself among them, because within your DNA lies the map of those first journeys. Over the following tens of millennia, humans continued to spread across the continents. About 20,000 years ago, a group from Siberia crossed the land bridge that once joined Asia to North America, opening the first chapter of humanity in the New World. They followed herds across frozen plains, carrying stone tools, fire, and the memory of the old world. Within a few thousand years, they had reached from the Arctic tundra to the Amazon rainforest, from the high Andes to the blue shores of the Caribbean. Everywhere they went, they adapted, learned, and built unique cultures. They carved in stone, painted, hunted with bows, each act expanding the boundaries of human consciousness. Across the Pacific Islands, they became masters of navigation, reading waves, watching stars, following clouds, sailing across vast oceans with nothing but trust and inherited memory. Those canoes carried no compasses, only faith, and the wisdom passed down through generations. Isn't it astonishing? A species that once feared the dark of caves now dared to voyage into the endless dark of the sea. About 12,000 years ago, something began to change. Not suddenly, not everywhere, but here and there, small groups of people began to stay a little longer in the places they once passed through. River valleys, floodplains, lake shores rich with fish, these became the first temporary homes of settlement. They noticed that seeds dropped to the ground, grew back again. They noticed that animals returned with the seasons, and slowly they began to plant, to tame, to wait. Agriculture was born slow, but irreversible. In Mesopotamia, Egypt, Anatolia, China, Mesoamerica, and the Andes, people cultivated rice, barley, millet, wheat, maize, potatoes, and raised sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs. They built granaries, dug irrigation canals, shaped pottery, stored harvests, and began to measure time. Time was no longer only light and dark, but the turning of sowing and reaping, of rain and drought, of life and death. Time could now be counted, and the first calendars appeared. Can you hear that rhythm? The sound of seasons, rain, grain sprouting, fire crackling in the dark. If you can, press like, as if sending a greeting back 12,000 years. When grain and fire anchored people in place, villages became towns, and towns became cities. In Sumer, Uruk, Lagash, and Eridu, the first civilizations rose along the Tigris and Euphrates. They built temples, managed water, divided labor, and to remember it all, they invented writing. At first, marks pressed into clay, used simply to count grain and debt. But slowly, writing became humanity's memory. In Egypt, hieroglyphs carved on tombs and temples spoke of God's life and death. In India, China, and Mesoamerica, other early cities blossomed along rivers, where rice, monsoons, and faith shaped brilliant cultures. Once writing appeared, knowledge no longer vanished with the storyteller. It remained, captured in stone, clay, and papyrus. Humans recorded floods, laws, and dreams, and history gained its own voice. As knowledge accumulated, ideas awakened. In Greece, India, China, Persia, and Egypt, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine flourished together. Humans didn't just live in the world. They began to ask why the world was as it is. They traced stars, measured shadows, and gave birth to the first science. It was a quiet, profound moment, the instant we realized we could understand the sky. Across millennia, science and culture grew hand in hand. The Babylonians charted the moon's cycles. The Egyptians measured the Nile. The Greeks questioned existence. The Indians contemplated consciousness. And the Chinese sought harmony between order and nature. Though separated by oceans, every civilization gazed into the same mirror, the mirror of awareness. Then came modern science, telescopes, chemistry, theories, languages, and endless questions. Humanity began to understand. To study the world was to study itself. In the last few thousand years, a blink in evolutionary time, we have changed faster than ever before. We invented the printing press, ships, electricity, the internet, and reached the sky with steel and fuel. But that speed carries a paradox. We've moved too far from the rhythm of nature, living faster, worrying more, feeling lonelier. Our bodies are still shaped by forests and fire, yet our minds live in the glow of artificial light. We cure disease, yet create new ones. We connect the globe, yet lose connection with ourselves. And so the question returns, where is evolution taking us? When the lights go out, we can still hear the ancient whisper of evolution. A drop of water in your body was once the mist of an ancient ocean. An atom in your blood once burned in the heart of a star. You are not apart from the universe, you are the way the universe knows itself. The first fire makers, the cave painters, the first planters, and you, all part of one long breath of life. Close your eyes. Listen to your heartbeat. It is the echo of millions of years of evolution, still pulsing quietly through every generation. If you've journeyed this far with me, press subscribe, not just to hear more stories, but to remind yourself that you are part of the greatest story ever told, the story of life itself. We're about to leave familiar ground into a universe where every light tells a story. When the last light of day fades behind pale violet clouds, the sky slowly reveals another world where stars appear one by one, quietly, without being summoned. The Milky Way, the river of the heavens, emerges like a mist of light, stretching across the night, from one horizon to the other. In that stillness, humanity feels something beyond its grasp, a tranquil mystery where the infinite gazes back at the finite. Ancient people once believed that the sky was a dome above the earth. The stars were nails of light pinned into it, and that the gods lived beyond that curtain. But over thousands of years, with finer instruments and sharper minds, humans discovered that the sky is not a roof, but an ocean. Each star is a Sunday. Each point of light is a world, and Earth itself is just a grain of sand, drifting through that luminous river. From that moment, humanity lost its place at the center, but gained something greater, the awareness that we exist inside a story so vast it defies imagination. That feeling was not fear, but wonder. It was wonder that made our ancestors count the stars, build monuments to track the sun, record the moon's journey, and follow the rhythm of the seasons. Every star became a marker on the map of time. When Galileo first peered through his small telescope, he did not just see stars. He saw the universe unfold before his eyes, and within that view, he saw humanity, a species capable of exploring without leaving the ground. Modern science has taken us farther than imagination once dared. We know the Milky Way holds over 100 billion stars, that it spirals through space in 4 great arms, and that at its center lies a supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A*, 4 million times the mass of our Sunday. But the more we learn, the smaller we feel. A star like the Sun is only one among billions, and our planet, though full of life, is just a tiny blue dot, floating in an endless dark sea. That smallness does not diminish us, it humbles us. Within the human body are 7 billion atoms, outnumbering every grain of sand on Earth's beaches. All of them are older than the planet itself. Some were born in stars that exploded billions of years ago. Others drifted through the nebulae that gave birth to the Milky Way. When you press your hand to your chest and feel your heartbeat, it is not just blood moving. It is the pulse of the cosmos. Every electron in your body has traveled through space, carrying the memory of forgotten ages. Within you is time itself. In every breath, the history of the universe. Consciousness, what we call uniquely human, may be the way the universe sees itself. Perhaps it has never been silent. It has only been thinking through us. When we observe, measure, question, the universe is writing its own story. In a new language, the language of knowledge. If that is true, then every human discovery is not about uncovering something outside of us, but about the universe remembering for a part of itself. There is something strange in this realization. Everything is made of matter, yet meaning is not. A stone, a star, a proton. They exist without knowing they exist. Only when a mind perceives them do they gain a name, a story, a place within awareness. And so, though we are small, we hold the power of definition. The universe is invisible energy until a thinking being looks upon it. Then it gains order, shape, and history. When we look at the sky, we are not just observers, we are completing the story of the universe. Every glance, every measurement, every question is a line written into the book of existence. And in that vast emptiness, perhaps the universe is still waiting for us to read the next chapter. People have often asked, what is the meaning of humanity in this vastness? A creature that exists for only decades, within structures that span billions of light years. What value could it hold? The answer, perhaps, lies in that very brevity. If time is an ocean, then we are a drop that can reflect the sky. If the universe is a symphony, we are the moment when sound becomes self-aware. It does not need to last forever. It only needs to mean something. Consciousness makes even shortness sacred. Looking back, every civilization has left its mark by looking up. The pyramids, Stonehenge, the Mayan observatories, and today, the James Webb Telescope. Each one is a bridge between humanity and the cosmos. Every age has its own way of speaking with the stars. The ancients used myth, the moderns use mathematics, but both share one desire: to understand and to be understood. Deep within, no one truly seeks to conquer the cosmos. What we seek is to see ourselves within it. A distant star does not need our gaze to shine, but we need it to know that light still exists. Our existence does not alter physical law, but it gives those laws meaning. Empty space is only empty until someone calls it beautiful. If we could see the Milky Way from afar, we would see it turning slowly in the dark, a great flower of light. There, the earth would be just a small point on the edge of one of its petals, and humanity, tiny sparks on its surface. But in those sparks are music, language, memory, and love. None of these are accidents. The universe does not know it is beautiful, but we do. And perhaps that is what makes it so. When we fall silent and let the sky cover us, perhaps we hear the first sound of the universe. Not an explosion, but the vibration of space, the spreading of energy, the long breath of light. Everything is still unfolding, from the beginning until now, without pause. And in that flow, we are but a fleeting moment, the moment the universe smiles at itself. Perhaps that is why the night always calms the soul. When darkness falls, everything becomes simple. No titles, no borders, no noise, only ancient light and the breath of now. In that union, if the universe is an ocean, then Earth is only a grain of sand quietly drifting within it, circling an ordinary star, at the edge of an ordinary galaxy. Yet within that ordinariness lies the most extraordinary thing, life. Among hundreds of billions of possible worlds, it seems only this one can whisper, think, love, and look up at the sky to ask where it belongs. The sun, our single star, is not a grand beacon within the Milky Way. It is a type G star, about 4.6 billion years old, midway through its life. It is not too bright, not too dim, not too hot, not too cold. That delicate balance creates a special zone around it, what scientists call the habitable zone, where temperatures allow water to exist as a liquid. Within that space, Earth found its perfect position, not too close to burn, not too far to freeze. From afar, Earth does not look like a planet of land at all, but like a sapphire drifting in a sea of darkness. Over 70% of its surface is covered by ocean. Water, soft, transparent, and gentle, is the strongest force known, for it carries life, shapes the climate, balances temperature, and provides the cradle for all beginnings. Beneath its surface, countless invisible currents, from microscopic to planetary scale, work tirelessly, moving energy, maintaining cycles, and keeping balance alive. But Earth does not live for itself alone. It dances within a greater rhythm, together with the moon. This planet circles the sun, spinning on its tilted axis, angled 23.5 degrees. That slight tilt is the reason seasons exist. If Earth's axis were straight, there would be no spring to begin, no autumn to close, only a monotonous eternity. But thanks to that tiny imperfection, flowers bloom, leaves fall, ice melts, and rain returns. It is imperfection that gives the world its rhythm. If you could leave the atmosphere and look back, you would see clouds wrapping the planet like a thin blanket. Each one reflects sunlight, absorbs warmth from below, keeping the world from freezing at night and from burning by day. Beneath that soft veil, life unfolds at every scale, from rainforests to deserts, from ocean trenches to mountain peaks. Millions of ecosystems move in harmony, the veins and breath of one living world. Nowhere is truly still. Nowhere stands apart from the symphony of this planet. When astronomer Carl Sagan saw the pale blue dot photograph taken by Voyager 1, he wrote that everything humanity has ever known, every civilization, every lover, every king, and every criminal lived within that single pixel of light, a faint blue dot in an infinite darkness. It was not just an image. It was a poem of humility. It reminded us that Earth is not the center of the universe, but the center of our own story. On this small world, billions of living beings share existence, from the smallest bacteria to vast forests that breathe for us all. But only one species, humanity, can ask about the nature of existence itself. That is our gift and our burden. We build observatories to see farther, send probes beyond the solar system, and beam radio signals into the dark, hoping someone, somewhere, is listening. But perhaps what the universe truly wants is not for us to find others, but to find ourselves. Earth moves around the sun at over 100,000 kilometers per hour, and the entire solar system orbits the center of the Milky Way at over 800,000 kilometers per hour. With every breath you take, this planet travels hundreds of kilometers through space, yet you feel nothing. Everything is calm. No cosmic wind, no shaking ground, only the quiet steadiness of inertia and the silence of the void. So when you stand beneath the night sky and believe you are still, you are, in truth, racing through the cosmos, around a star that itself circles a galaxy. Everything is in motion, including you. Life on this planet endures because of fragile things. A thin layer of atmosphere, only a few dozen kilometers thick, holds in warmth and blocks deadly radiation. A magnetic field surrounds the planet, shielding it from the solar wind. If either were lost, life would end almost instantly. Both nature and science agree. Our existence is an unbroken chain of fortune, a delicate balance, maintained across billions of years. Yet within that fragility lies strength, the power to adapt. From the first single-celled organisms, born in the ocean's depths, life has evolved to meet every challenge. Ice ages, volcanoes, asteroid strikes. It survives, transforms, and with each transformation, writes a new chapter of Earth's story. Humanity, with intellect and will, is simply the latest chapter, a chapter that can observe, record, and retell the very story it came from. When we speak of the universe, it is easy to forget that every grand vision begins here. Every telescope, every space mission, every dream of the stars, all were born on this soil. Every future footprint on Mars will still be an echo of Earth. This planet is not just home, it is the origin point of every emotion, every thought, every discovery. If one day we leave it forever, every ship will still carry a part of Earth within it, not only its materials, but its memory. From space, Earth has no borders, no lines divide its nations, no front lines, no flags, only white clouds drifting over green, brown, and gray lands, and faint ribbons of light where cities glow at night. When people see that image, they often fall silent, realizing that all conflict, all division, is too small to survive the scale of the cosmos. Perhaps if all humanity could see Earth from orbit, even for a few minutes, wars would be harder to wage, for no one could destroy such fragile beauty after seeing it whole. Earth, in the current of the Milky Way, is like a single leaf, floating down a river of stars. That river carries us through time, through cycles of birth and decay. But this leaf can dream, it can think, it can love, it can look up at the very river that bears it and wonder where it flows. In that, there is a beauty beyond all words, a planet capable of looking back at the universe it belongs to. When night falls and you see the Milky Way shining overhead, remember, you are looking outward, but also inward. That light traveled for tens of thousands of years through space to reach your eyes. It is the past of the galaxy, but the present of you. And between them is a shared bridge, awareness. It is no accident that humanity arose here. Perhaps life is not just a biological phenomenon, but the universe's way of ensuring that its own beauty will be seen. Earth cannot speak, but it tells stories in all it does. Through waves upon its seas, through the movement of clouds, through wind rushing through forests, and through the heartbeat of tiny living things. When we listen, we hear the whisper of the universe itself, echoing through all forms of life. Nothing lasts forever, not even this world. One day, the sun will age, expand into a red giant, and its heat will swallow the earth. But before that day comes, there are still billions of years to live, to learn, to dream, to love. And perhaps by then, humanity will carry Earth's story outward, planting it on other worlds, so that its life will endure in another form. Earth is proof that life can arise from chaos, that order can emerge from chance, that even in a universe full of darkness, there can exist a place that knows how to shine. It is not just our home. It is the evidence that somewhere, in every river of stars, a single grain of dust may learn to dream. From the surface of a blue planet, drifting through a river of stars, human eyes look upward and touch the purest essence the universe has ever created: light. It is not just illumination, but an ancient stream of data, each photon carrying the story of time's own origin. Light leaves the stars, traveling through the vacuum at 300,000 kilometers per second, crossing millions of years of space to reach us. When it touches the retina, we do not see the present, we see the past. Every dot of light is a memory, every star a data point in the infinite archive of the cosmos. From a scientific view, light is an electromagnetic wave rippling through space, both particle and wave, existing at the border between two worlds. But behind that equation lies something sacred. Light is the only proof that the universe is still speaking to us. It travels without wires, without sound, through pure presence alone. Every beam of light is a message sent millions of years ago, only to be seen in this fleeting moment now. Physicists call light the oldest instrument of cosmology. Through it, we know the sun is 8 light minutes from Earth. We know Vega's brightness left it 25 years ago. We know that the Andromeda galaxy we see tonight is how it looked 2.5 million years in the past. Every observation is a conversation with time. Light does not just let us see, it allows us to listen to the past. When we split light with a prism, we find not chaos, but structure. Every element leaves its own spectral fingerprint: hydrogen, helium, carbon, iron, sodium. It is the alphabet of the universe. From those thin glowing lines, we read the ages of stars, the spin of galaxies, and even the evidence of cosmic expansion. Light has become the map of the unreachable. Between the stars lie regions of pure darkness, places where light cannot pass. The ancients called them voids, but science knows they are the cradles of light. Inside vast clouds of gas and dust, gravity quietly gathers matter. When the density becomes great enough, fusion ignites, and a star is born. In darkness, light begins. It is an endless cycle of energy's renewal. The universe, in its physical nature, is a space where light is constantly bent. Every photon that passes near massive objects is curved by gravity, a phenomenon called gravitational lensing. Through it, we can glimpse galaxies billions of light years away and see mirrored reflections of the infant universe bending through curved space. Within that light, time stretches. Reality becomes a woven network of ancient reflections. Yet, the human eye can detect only a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. Beyond visible light lie hidden worlds, radio waves meters long, X-rays smaller than a bacterium, gamma rays millions of times more energetic than normal light. Each band of light reveals a different universe. Only by combining them can we see the full picture. We do not see everything, but with intellect, we have extended our vision beyond biology, building artificial eyes to look on our behalf. The James Webb Space Telescope is not merely a machine, it is a symbol of intelligence reaching beyond the dark. It has seen the first galaxies, the earliest stars, born when the universe was only a few 100 million years old. The light Webb receives has wandered for more than 13 billion years before striking its mirrors. Each photon is an ancient traveler, and when we decode it, we are reading the diary of time itself. Yet, even light has limits. There are regions from which it cannot escape, where gravity bends space and time into a closed horizon. These are black holes, cosmic extremes, where nothing, not even light, can leave. We cannot see them, only their absence, the distortions they carve in what surrounds them. A black hole is not merely destruction, but a reminder that knowledge, too, has boundaries. Modern science tells us we understand only about 5% of the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy, forms that neither shine nor absorb, but reveal themselves through gravity and cosmic expansion. The universe we call visible is only the tip of an iceberg, floating in an ocean of the unknown. We live in light, but every light is surrounded by darkness. The more we know, the less we see, and in that imperfection, there is strange beauty. Light is not just a tool, it is a metaphor for knowledge itself. The brighter we shine, the more new shadows we discover. Knowledge never completes, just as the universe never stops expanding. Every question does not close, it opens another door. At the deepest level, light is the breath of the cosmos. Every photon travels forever. It does not age, it never stops. It carries the memory of stars long dead, of galaxies long dissolved, and still drifts on, as if the universe itself refuses to forget its own past. When a photon touches your eye, past and present meet in a single point of perception. If anything makes humans special, it is our ability to see and to know that we are seeing. We are not merely observers of light, but part of its reflection. Every thought, every emotion, every act radiates energy, a kind of invisible light. Perhaps the universe is watching itself through our eyes, recording its own experience in the form of consciousness. In this river of ancient light, we are the dust that wanders. Our existence does not change the cosmos, but gives it someone to be seen by. And that, perhaps, is the purpose of light, to be reflected in awareness. If you are hearing these words, Let your imagination drift, with the photons moving out there. Every beam of light you see is a story, 1 billion years old, and every glance you take becomes the next chapter. Let the universe know you are still watching, still learning, still listening. And if you can, subscribe and leave a like, not just as a click on a screen, but as a signal sent into space, a sign that human curiosity is still awake, still reaching, and still shining to light the way. Against the black canvas of space, the Milky Way turns slowly, a colossal flower made of light. Over 100 billion stars move in perfect silence, each one a sun of its own, each sun perhaps with its own planets, its own oceans, its own skies, and maybe creatures looking back at us. In that ocean, our sun is only a droplet, and Earth, a drifting grain of dust. If we could stand at the galaxy's edge and look back, the Milky Way would appear as a glowing spiral disk, 100,000 light-years across, only a few thousand light-years thick, slightly curved at both ends. At its center lies a dense, luminous core, millions of stars, crowded around the supermassive black hole Sagittarius A*, a body 4 million times the mass of the Sunday. No light escapes from it, yet its gravity holds the entire galaxy together. Our sun rests about 26,000 light-years from the center on a spiral arm called the Orion Spur, a small passageway between two vast avenues of starlight, Sagittarius and Perseus. Together with over 200 billion stars, the sun races around the galactic core at more than 828,000 kilometers per hour. One orbit takes roughly 225 million years, so long that the last time the sun completed a revolution, dinosaurs had not yet walked the Earth. Amid those vast numbers, there is something small, yet profound: silence. There is no sound in the universe, for there is no air to carry it. Every motion, every explosion, every collision happens in utter quiet. If we could hear it, the cosmos might thunder like a grand orchestra, but we hear it differently, through data, through images, through thought, and perhaps through the beating of our own hearts. The Milky Way is not still. It rushes toward the Andromeda Galaxy at over 10 kilometers per second. In about 4.5 billion years, the two will meet. But instead of colliding, they will merge, for the distances between stars are too vast for real impact. Their systems will flow through each other like rivers of light, slowly blending into a single elliptical galaxy, larger, brighter, quieter. If someone still exists then and looks up at the sky, they will no longer see the Milky Way, but an ocean of stars covering the entire night. Among billions of suns, it is easy for humans to feel lost. Yet that feeling is not fear, it is awe. In a universe where everything orbits invisible centers, the awareness of one tiny species seems weightless. But precisely because of that, our existence becomes extraordinary. Among billions of stars, there is one star that can see the rest, our sun, through the eyes of humankind. If you are hearing this now, pause for a moment. Imagine yourself drifting through space. No direction, no up, no down. Only the sky filled with billions of turning suns. Each star a story, each beam a timeline. And right now, you, a living being, on a small blue world, are witnessing it all. That is what makes humanity different. Amid countless lights, we are the one that sees. Amid a galaxy of energy, we are the dust that feels. The universe does not need us to exist, but through us, it gains meaning. If this feels beautiful to you, if knowing you exist among billions of suns makes you still and open inside, leave a like, subscribe if you wish. Not for me, but for the idea that in this endless ocean, there are still hearts awake enough to listen to the cosmos. Science tells us our galaxy holds over 100 billion stars and perhaps trillions of planets. Statistically, there must be countless worlds, yet that does not make Earth less special. It makes it miraculous. Life itself is a statistical anomaly, a rare exception, woven from fragile balance. A slight change in temperature, gravity, or stellar density, and there would be no oceans, no air, no storyteller. Life exists because the universe allows it, but consciousness exists because the universe needs someone to know it exists. At the heart of all motion, all collisions, all cycles of stars, there lies one truth. The universe does not rest. It creates, it destroys, and it is reborn again. Stars explode, casting metal dust into the void, and that dust gathers again into new worlds. This cycle has repeated for billions of years. Every atom of iron in your blood was forged in a dying star. Every oxygen atom you breathe once floated inside an ancient nebula. The universe is not far from you. It flows through you. When you understand that, the feeling of being lost fades away, for we are not lost among the stars. We are part of their design. Your heart beats to the rhythm of the Milky Way. Your breath mingles with the solar wind. Your thoughts drift along the orbit of light. All is connected. There are no boundaries between humanity and the cosmos, only different forms of the same energy. Perhaps in a far future, when the galaxies merge and new civilizations rise, they too will look up and ask the same question we once did. Where are we in all of this? And the universe will answer, as it always has, with light. If the universe is a symphony, Earth is only a single note, yet the one note able to hear the whole song. That music began about 13.8 billion years ago, from a hot, dense state without size, the moment we call the Big Bang. From that instant, space did not merely expand. The very idea of expansion came into being. Before the Big Bang, there was no before. Space and time were two faces of one cosmic fabric, stretching into existence together. Within that flow, Earth is not a fixed point, but a small wave on the surface of space-time's sea. Its structure, like that of all things, is shaped by the fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong interaction, the weak interaction. Everything we call the world is a temporary arrangement of these four forces, playing within a continuous quantum field. The human body is made of the same kinds of particles as the stars. In our chests are carbon atoms, forged in the cores of suns that died billions of years ago. The universe has no center, yet it has a direction. It expands in every way, proven by the redshift of distant galaxies. As light travels through expanding space, its wavelength is stretched, shifted to the red. That tells us the galaxies are receding from one another. Run time backward, and everything gathers to a point, the primal origin. In modern physics, the Milky Way does not stand alone. It is part of the cosmic web. a vast lattice of energy filaments and dark matter strands. At the nodes of this network, galaxies condense, forming clusters and superclusters. From afar, the universe looks like a tapestry sewn with light, bright knots, and empty voids. We live inside one bright patch, where light and gravity hold a fragile balance. Most of the universe is invisible. Only about 5% is ordinary matter. The stuff of planets, stars, and people. Roughly 27% is dark matter, 68% is dark energy. The unknown pressure that makes expansion speed up. Its nature is unknown. It may be vacuum energy. It may be space reproducing itself. Some physicists call it negative pressure, a gentle push that drives everything apart if it continues. The universe will not die in flame, but fade in quiet. Current models allow several endings. In a big crunch, gravity wins, and all collapses to a point. In a big freeze, dark energy wins. Galaxies drift into isolation. Stars go out, and eternal darkness follows. Perhaps there is a big rip where dark energy strengthens until it tears galaxies and finally atoms themselves. Whichever path unfolds, nothing truly vanishes. Matter changes form.